Hello once again, it's not your boy That's No Moon, it's Licol back for the second episode of Under the Hood. Now, massive thank you to everyone who checked out the first episode and threw it some support and gave me some feedback. I read it all and I think I responded to it all. Massive thank you to you guys, you have made it so Moon wants to see more of these episodes on his channel. So, in terms of who we're addressing today, we did a poll, and for about 95% of it, CLS was just leading the charge with a nice steady lead. And then, in the last sort of hours of the poll, Gas, the sneaky little B word, just came up from behind and took the lead by a single percent and ended up winning out. Bit gutted about that, to be honest. CLS is my favourite personal team in the game, and I was looking forward to covering him, but I will respect the poll. So, today we're going to do Gas, and then we'll do CLS next, because it literally was by 1%, so I'm not going to do a poll for the next one. CLS next, and then we'll do a poll after that. Okay? So, before we get started, a little bit of cheeky self-promotion for me here. Moon always lets me do this, bless him, despite the fact it's probably detrimental to his videos. I'm doing it here at the beginning because I think it will prevent me from rambling, basically, because I go on and on and on when Moon allows me to shout my stuff out. So, if you like what I do for Moon's channel, and you like what I'm doing with this series, and you'd like to show me a little bit of appreciation, it doesn't affect whether or not I do these videos, but I have my own sci-fi audiobook series here on YouTube. It's at a channel called the Shifterverse. It's basically Star Wars, that sort of utopian Star Wars technology with space magic and stuff, meeting that sort of grim, cynical tone of Game of Thrones / A Song of Ice and Fire. So if you like the sound of that, this book's right up your street. The channel's very rough at the moment. There's barely any art. Visual skills is just a skill I don't have, and I've done everything myself. The music, the narration, the writing, the Foley, everything's been done by one person, so please bear that in mind if you do go check it out. First 4 chapters need rewriting, and the first 5 need re-records. Still listenable, still enjoyable, it's just I made some mistakes along the way, and I would like to go back and rectify them. So, once again, if you like what I do and you want to show me a bit of love, please consider going and throwing me a sub. Every single sub I get makes my channel just look a little bit better, because obviously it's got a very low sub count. And if you want to be really kind, if you want to go that extra mile and get a gold star from me, and you actually want to give the series a little bit of your time, I would say give it from the prologue till the end of chapter 2 to see whether or not you're engaged. It's quite a slow burn story, so it takes a little bit of patience to get into it. But once it gets going, I think it's awesome. I mean, I wrote it, so why wouldn't I think that? So, yeah, if you're not listening after that point, I definitely haven't done a good enough job. So, no pressure from me, guys, but it would honestly mean a lot to me if you could help me out. Obviously, like and subscribe to this, to Moon's channel and to this video, and let Moon know you want more. And with that out of the way, let's get on to the team of the episode, Gas. So, if you're new to this series, or this is the first episode of Under the Hood you're watching, I would really highly recommend going back and listening to the first episode in this series, because I do a nice big long introduction by what I mean by a team's engine and what the sort of the intention of the series is. I don't want to be doing it every episode because I think that will get tedious fast. There's about 8 minutes of explaining. The too long didn't read answer though is the engine of a team is basically the core characters that make that team work. You can strip away the other characters and the team will still have its mechanics and still do its primary job. So, with that out of the way, what is the Gas engine? When we go under the hood of the Gas team, what is the engine of the team? What makes it go? Gas, along with a few other teams, is what we would refer to as a time bomb team. So, we addressed Jedi Knight Luke last week, and Jedi Knight Luke is what I would refer to as a linchpin team. Now, with a linchpin team, there's one character causing all the trouble, you get rid of that character and the team crumbles. And a time bomb team on the surface sounds similar. It's like, there's one character that's going to do something nasty, we've got to go for them. But a time bomb team is different, and it's more unique in how its mechanics function. But all time bomb teams run off the same 3 principles. So, the 3 core mechanics to a time bomb team are: 1, they explode, obviously, so what this means is after a certain amount of time, something bad's gonna happen. So either a character's gonna get annihilated, there's gonna be a turn meter train that you're just never gonna catch, or, or there's gonna be a massive detrimental nerf to your team when you're facing a time bomb team. So that's the first thing they do, they explode, quite obviously. But number 2, and what makes them different from a linchpin team, is that time bomb teams will have fail-safes. They have to be disarmed in a certain way. Some characters have to be disarmed, which basically means they have to be controlled. Some characters have to be neutralized, which basically means they have to be defeated, before you can go after the core of the bomb, before you can get to the bit of the bomb that explodes. Number 3, a time bomb team will choke you out / apply pressure to you. So they will basically nerf you in some way or push you back in some way. It can be they can take your offense down so that you can't get at the characters, you can't defeat the characters you need to defeat, or they'll increase your cooldowns or apply ability block. A time bomb team will in some way try and hinder you from disarming it, basically. Now, one thing to note when we talk about gas, and gas being a time bomb team, is that the gas team itself, another part of its engine, is massive offense, and it generally has so much damn offense that it can quite often plow through many teams before the bomb even goes off. I would also liken gas to a nuclear bomb, and the reason for this is because even if the bomb doesn't explode, there is still some radiation to deal with, and those of you who know about the gas team will know what I'm talking about. Basically, even if you disarm the time bomb mechanism of the gas team, there's still some leftover radiation that is going to plague you until you deal with it, basically. So now we've explained what category of team Gas falls into and what his overall mechanic is for his team, let's have a look at the characters, their kit, and their contribution to this time bomb engine. So, the engine of the Gas team is these 3 characters here. We're clocking in on average at 3. You have Gas, you have Rex, and you have Fives. Now, Gas, believe it or not, is not the explosion. He's actually the first failsafe that you need to disarm. You don't have to defeat him, but you do have to disarm him. He also chokes the enemy out. He's the character that chokes out the enemy team and pushes them back and applies pressure. And he's also the residual radiation that will plague the enemy even if they disarm the actual exploding part of the bomb. The second part of the engine is Fives. Now, Fives solely exists as the second failsafe. He's there and he must be neutralized in order to get at the core of the team, the thing that explodes. Speaking of the thing that explodes, it's actually Rex. Rex is the explosion of the team. He does contribute a little bit to the choking out mechanics, but he himself doesn't choke the enemy out. It's more that he allows Gas to choke the enemy out, and I'll explain that when we get into their kits. So that's the engine of the Gas team. Now, let's move on to the characters who comprise the engine and their kits and how it contributes to this time bomb mechanic I keep talking about. I'm going to say time bomb a lot in this episode, guys. I'm really sorry. The first character we're going to address is going to be Gas, who you're going to be running in the lead. And speaking of the lead, what Gas's lead contributes to the team and to the engine is it's a damage boost for a start, so you get a static damage boost of 50% critical damage, and you also get ramping offense every time the enemy gets buffs, which is great, as if this team didn't hit hard enough already. He also prevents all revives, which is absolutely amazing, especially against certain teams that rely on it. We all know the teams. And his lead also provides the first failsafe mechanic that anyone going against this team needs to disarm in order to get at the parts of the bomb that are actually going to do some serious damage. Now, this failsafe mechanic is Anakin's ability to advance and take cover. Now, when Anakin's advancing, so when he's got that little blue buff that says he's standing up and he's stood up and he's taking turns, Anakin will have an undispellable taunt as long as there are other 501st allies active. Now, that's bad enough on its own. Oh god, you've got to take in characters who can bypass taunts to get at the other characters, except no. Because you see, while Anakin is stood up and while he is advancing, any ally with the 501st tag cannot lose health. You can get at their protection, but they cannot lose a single point of health. Annihilates go around this, so, you know, like Mando, Annihilus, they can kill these clones, maybe if you wanted to take in Jedi Knight Revan and mark one down, but I see that as a waste of characters, and it's a very mishmashy team. You know, so basically the 501st allies, while ever Gas is standing, are invincible, for lack of a better word. That is basically what they are. There's very few things that can get around that. So you have to disarm this part of the failsafe of the team, you have to get Gas to take cover. Now, when Gas takes cover, he basically does nothing. He sits there and he gains 10% protection every time someone takes a turn, so you basically get 10 turns to do as much damage to the 501st allies as you can. After Gas's protection has fully recovered, he will stand back up, he'll go back into his advancing stance, and you are basically back to square one in the disarming process. This is a very frustrating mechanic to get around, believe me. The second mechanic he contributes to the engine is his choking out / pressure mechanic, and this comes from his uniques. Basically, Gas can increase cooldowns on critical hits, so he can stop a lot of characters using those oh-so needed specials in order to sort of bring him down and attack the clones, to sort of push them back a turn. He also reduces max health on enemies with no protection when he attacks, and that is specifically to take down one character, but it's also useful on pretty much any tank that's really thick and sturdy if you can deplete their protection. Some other neat things about his kit is that he's really hard to control, as he'll cleanse himself when he's critically hit, so if you stun him or daze him, he's not staying that way for long, because once you crit him, he will basically cleanse everything. He always counterattacks, and he gets some stat bonuses if the entire team is 5-0 first. Bear in mind the whole team has to be 5-0 first for him to get that counterattack and those stat bonuses. And the final cool thing about his kit, or the final frustrating thing about his kit, is that if you do disarm the bomb, if you do take out all the 5-0 first allies, he will get back up one final time and have a last stand. Now that's bad enough anyway, Gas hits really bloody hard and he's got an exorbitant amount of health steal. But if that's not bad enough, he also becomes immune to critical hits, and he gets turn meter every time the enemy moves. So that's what I meant by he is the residual radiation. You can disarm the explosion, but Gas is going to get up and he's going to plague you and do some damage before the team falls apart. Now you'll notice I haven't said anything about Anakin's attacks. He's got a basic and he's got 2 special attacks. And the reason for this is because the best way to characterize Anakin's attacks is Annie Smash. That's all there is to it. There's some cool things, there's some armor shreds, some daze. There's also the fact that every time he uses an attack, he will follow up with another attack depending on which attack you used. And it's not an attack out of turn, so daze doesn't prevent it. But yeah, his attacks are just offense in a can, basically. Pure, unadulterated offense in a can. And they will smash down so many enemies in 1 or 2 hits. Nothing more really to say about his attacks, I'm afraid. So, with that in mind, that's Anakin covered. Let's have a look at Fives. Now, what Fives contributes to this time bomb mechanic and to the team's engine as a whole is he's obviously the second failsafe, and he's the most dangerous failsafe. If you don't want to trip one failsafe in this team, it is Fives. So he's got some cool things in his kit. He can call and assist, which is great. He gets turn meter when his allies take damage, which is also nice. And he puts speed down on his basic, so he pushes the enemy back a little bit. But speed down, it's not that detrimental compared to having your ability cooldowns increased. But he's mainly there. The main reason you stick Fives in this lineup is for his ability Tactical Awareness. Now, what this ability does and what it means is, if you go for any other 5-0 first clone other than Fives, if you try and take down Rex or you try and take down Arc or Echo before you've took down Fives, Fives will sacrifice himself, heal all the clones, not just the clone that you went for, 100% of their health. And that would be bad enough on its own. I mean, it's basically a mini version of Jedi Knight Revan's Savior. But that's not the worst of it. You see, if Fives sacrifices himself in this way, he will also give all the clones, not just the clone you attacked, his stats. Now, he gives them his health and his protection, and if it was just that, it's pretty bad anyway. You're making all these squishy clones into tanks, but that's still not the worst of it. He also gives them his offense, and he also gives them his speed, his max speed too, so that's the speed including mods. Making all of the clones, all the 5-0 first clones, hard-hitting, super fast tanks. If the enemy trips this failsafe when you're using the gas team, and they quite often do, it gets ugly for them fast, because characters that were once really squishy and took down in 1 or 2 hits now can take a tank's worth of damage. If you trip this failsafe when you're going against the gas team, prepare for the battle to go south quickly. And that is all Fives contributes to the gas engine. Basically, he will stall out the disarming process if your opponent is playing correctly, or he'll make your life an absolute living nightmare if you trigger his failsafe. Now, onto our third component of this engine, Rex. Now, Rex, as I've already said, is the explosion, and the reason he's the explosion is because of this ability of his, aerial advantage. We can go into the nitty-gritty of what it does. It's basically an attack that stacks its damage based on how many clones take a turn, and it does a health percent damage. But if we're going to simplify this, it's basically an insta-kill to all but a few choice characters. Galactic Legends, Crew, Kylo Ren Mast, and Malik are all immune to the health percent damage of this attack. But that's it. Everyone else, it is basically an insta-kill. I've only ever seen 2 characters that I haven't just mentioned tank this attack. One being General Kenobi with about 11 stacks of protection up in a Padme team, and Count Dooku in a 3v3 where barely any clones had taken a turn. In a 5v5, this is basically tantamount to an insta-kill though. And what's really bad about this and why this is such a heavily detrimental thing is because there's no revives. Thanks to the gas lead, you cannot revive that character, and this team hits so damn hard. It's not good to be down a character against this team, basically. If you go a character down against this team, it's going to get ugly really, really quickly. You need every character you've got, and you need their offense to help bring this team down before it brings you down. So that's why Rex is the explosion, this aerial advantage ability. The second part of his kit that contributes to the engine is that he can help apply pressure and choke out the enemy with his form up ability. Now, this doesn't affect the enemy in any detrimental way. It doesn't push them back, rather it pushes your team ahead. Basically, you use this ability, you'll get basically 100% turn meter on everyone, allowing you to get the jump. So Gas will get the jump, he'll go first, he'll be able to throw out that AoE, he'll be able to increase cooldowns off the bat, especially if Rex goes first. And if you've got him modded right, Rex is definitely going first because of the third cool thing about his kit, that being his unique. Now, his unique is really cool actually. He'll reduce the ability cooldowns on all clones 501st allies. It doesn't include himself, but basically what that means is all the other 501st clone allies are going to be using their special abilities twice as quick. But that's not the best part about it. The best part about this unique is the fact that Rex will grant 4% speed to himself and his 501st allies, not just the clones ones, his 501st allies, for every 501st ally on your side of the battlefield. This makes Rex, who is already a really fast character, insanely fast and easily able to outrun those Gideons and those Darth Revans with ease basically if you've got him modded right, allowing him to immediately form up and boom, the gas team is getting the jump and that bomb is ticking away. And that's it. That's the engine of the gas team. That's all you need to know about the engine of the gas team and how its time bomb mechanic works. You basically beat on the enemy, you stall them out, and you protect Rex and hinder the enemy from getting to him until he blows up, annihilates a character, and immediately puts the battle in your advantage. Now, let's talk gear. Unlike the Jedi Knight Luke episode, the first episode, I'm going to do a minimum recommendation, which is basically this is the minimum you can get away with and the team will still work and do its job. I'm also going to do a recommended gear level for when you go back and refine the teams. I think people will find that more helpful. Let me know in the comments if you just prefer me to do the minimum, this is the bare minimum you need sort of deal. So let's address Gas first, let's address the leader. Probably good practice to always address the leader first. It's not good news here for people trying to save their resources. Gas is a must-have at Gear 13, unfortunately. You're also going to need relics on this guy. The thing is, Gas needs that offense and he needs to be able to take a punch. For this team to work, for this team to stall out and protect Rex for as long as possible. So you're going to need Gear 13 and you're going to need relics. Now the minimum I think you can get away with this character at is Relic 5. So Gear 13, Relic 5. He'll still do his job, but what I would recommend is Relic 7. You will never regret it. He's one of the best characters in the game still and definitely worthy of that Relic 7 status. So Gas, Gear 13, Relic 7, 100% of the way if you can, but you'll get away with him at Relic 5. On to 5s. You're going to find this is the case with most tanks and most characters that stall out the enemy. 5s needs to be Gear 13 as well, unfortunately. you don't need him as higher relics. The higher his relics, you know, the more hits he's going to be able to take and the more he's going to stall the battle out for the enemy. So, you know, it's not a wasted investment to take him to high relics, but you definitely want Gear 13 and you definitely want some relics, because even the low level relics are still adding that little bit more health, that little bit more protection, that little bit more damage mitigation. So what I would recommend for 5s is the minimum you can sort of get away with him at for the team to do its job. I would say Relic 3. I personally honestly think Relic 5, but Relic 3 I still think he'll do his job. I still think he'll be a pest to the enemy. If you wanted what I would recommend getting him to though when you go back to refine the team, I would recommend Relic 7. He's one of the few characters outside of Galactic Legends and Legendary characters that I would recommend taking beyond Relic 5 and getting to Relic 7. He's got a cool ship for the General Kenobi fleet, and every relic level is just making him that little bit more stubborn, and 5s needs to be stubborn, because you see, if your opponent seats gas, they get him down, they disarm that part of this failsafe, and then they go for 5s, but they don't get him down before gas gets back up. The battle is getting very, very dicey for them, because they once again need to disarm the gas failsafe, and then they need to get back in and start hammering away at 5s. So yeah, honestly, when you go back to refine the team, take 5s to Relic 7, you will not regret it. On to Rex, and Rex is the kindest of these 3 characters of the engine. This is not a cheap engine, by the way. I promise you there are teams where you can get away with the engine being this character at gear 12 and this character at gear 11, but the gas team is not one of them, unfortunately. However, Rex is the kindest. You see, Rex doesn't need any relics, he just needs gear 13. I explained in the Jedi Knight loot video how the difference between gear 12 and gear 13 is 22 speed if you're running a speed mod set, so you really do want that gear 13. You want Rex going as fast as possible. You don't need relics though, so Rex is just perfectly usable. He does his job at gear 13. He's squishy even if you take him to relic 7, and he doesn't do his big mollywop ability based on his base offense. So gear 13, he's going to absolutely do his job. That's my minimum recommendation. What I would actually recommend though, when you go back to refine this team, is taking Rex to relic 5, and that's not for any stat boosts, that's not to make him more effective. It's going to be marginal at best at how much more effective it makes him. It's simply because you need Relic 5 for the Challenge Tier Rancor raid, and Rex is really good in that raid, so if you want to use Rex in this raid, take him to Relic 5. But, you know, if you're just using this team in PvP and PvE that's not that raid, gear 13, he's going to do his job. So that's the gear. Now let's move on to mods. Now there is 2 no-brainer ways to mod 5s and gas, but there's also a couple of weird yet effective sets you can put on them too to get different results but still make the team really effective and really stubborn. So let's start with gas. Basically it's a no-brainer to mod him for crit damage or offense. I do think crit damage is better because if a character can reliably crit, I think mathematically it's always going to be more damage output. Not to mention that Gas's lead is a critical damage boost, so I think crit damage over offense, but if you haven't got any good crit damage mods, offense will still do the trick. But there's another weird way you can mod him, and that is for defense. Defense on the arrow, defense on the triangle, defense on the cross, and defense sets all across the board. This basically makes Gas so difficult to sit down. He really can take an absolute pummeling before you put him into cover. And this is just anecdotal evidence, of course, but I have fought this a couple of times, and it really does. It makes the battle really dicey. It makes Gas so hard to sit down. So that's something to consider. When it comes to speed, Gas doesn't really need to be fast. If you're running the typical crit damage or offense set, you can put an offense primary on his arrow. I'd put a crit damage triangle on him, or a offense triangle on him, offense on his cross. Then you want his circle to be protection, because obviously he's only advancing while he has protection. But speed is not all that important. It's good to give him some speed, but you don't need that. You don't need that speed arrow because he's constantly counter-attacking, and he also gets that turn meter boost from Rex, so you don't have to worry about him getting out the gate quick. So that's Gas. Crit damage or offense is the standard, but you can also try the defense thing, and take it from me, it really does work. Now on to 5s. There's basically a no-brainer way to mod any tank in the game, really, and that is to stack their health and protection or stack their defense. Basically make them take more hits or mitigate those hits. Really simple. But 5s is a little bit unique because of that tactical awareness Zeta. It can also be extremely beneficial to mod out other stats that he grants his clone allies, so his speed and his offense. If you stack his speed or you stack his offense up, you're taking a gamble, obviously, because you're making him able to take less damage, which basically means if the AI is going for him, if the AI has decided it's going to pick on him, it's going to bring him down easier. Or if you've put this on defense and your opponent's going at it, it's going to make him easier to bring down. So it really is a gamble whether or not you want to take away his tankiness or, like lessen his tankiness in order to get a bigger trade-off if he does sacrifice to your clone allies. Another way you can mod him is for balance. So basically, you're giving him a bit of everything. You're giving him a bit of health, you're giving him a bit of offense, you're giving him a bit of speed, a bit of protection, a bit of this, a bit of that. And you basically get a nice balanced release of stats when he sacrifices himself to the clone allies. So that's food for thought. 5s, it really can be a bit pick and mix. It depends if you're modding him to not get sacrificed in the first place, or you're modding him so that when he does sacrifice, he's giving the 501st clone allies much more important stats and a much bigger boost in those important stats. So yeah, food for thought there on how to mod 5s. Now let's move on to Rex, and I rambled on Gas and 5s when it came to the mods, so you probably think I'm going to ramble on Rex, but no, speed is all you need. Basically, fast speed set, and whatever mods, they don't even have to match the secondary set, they don't have to match just whatever high speed secondaries you can get, you just want Rex fast, that is it, end of, mod Rex for speed. So, who do you pair with this engine then? There's only really 3 choices, you see. Gas gets a bunch of awesome bonuses, he gets some stat increases, and he gets that 100% counterattack only if all allies are 501st. So you only have 3 options to pick from after you've got this engine up and running. Unfortunately though, one of the characters is not part of the Padme engine, but she's infinitely more useful there, and that is Ahsoka. I don't think she's all that great in a gas team. If you don't have Arc, of course use Ahsoka, but I wouldn't recommend it. So that leaves you with Echo and Arc, and there really is no other reason to run anyone else in this team. The bonuses that Gas gets really are just that much more useful than, say, Guard from Chewie, which I've seen some people run for some strange reason. So let's start with Echo. Echo's a really versatile support character. He assists 501st members when they use their basics. He's got a devastating AoE attack, and it's also a buff dispel, which is useful if you're fighting, say, Padme and you want to get rid of that protection up. It also stuns droids, which has a niche use against General Grievous, but not really anywhere outside that. And he gives turn meter on his basic to random allies. He's got some synergy with 5s, but I feel like that synergy is more relevant and more important when you're running him under Shaak Ti. But the most important thing about Echo, and what really helps him contribute to this engine, is that he has anti-evasion synergy. Basically, if the enemy decides that they are going to have the audacity to try and dodge these heavy-hitting attacks from the 501st team by using Foresight, or just by having, that random dodge happen, Echo's going to punish them. Basically, if an enemy evades the attack, he will deal 20% max health damage to them, basically an expose popping on them. And that's really good. It's great against Jedi, those glow stick wielding B-words, always putting Foresight up. It's really good against Darth Revan because of Darkside Bastila's unique that grants Foresight. It's really good against Resistance. They like to have a lot of Foresight synergy. So it's basically a way of punishing enemies that have the nerve, the absolute nerve, to try and evade this team's attacks, basically. And a quick rundown of ARC Trooper. ARC Trooper is Gas's best friend when it comes to chopping down Malak, and his kit is infinitely more simple than Echo's. And basically what will happen is, at the start of the battle, Arc will summon a turret. This turret cannot be affected, it cannot be attacked, it cannot have any status effects put on it, and it will assist Arc Trooper whenever he uses an ability. Arc also has a special ability that can assign a buff to another clone ally, and the turret will then assist that clone ally also. The turret deals true damage, which means it cannot critically hit, but it will ignore defense. It also dispels buffs, which is also handy when you're dealing with tanks to get rid of their taunts, and it will do its damage based on Arc's offense stats. So The more offense Arc has, the more damage the turret will do. And that is Arc in a nutshell. That is what Arc does. He's just adding offense to the team. In terms of mods, just mod Echo for offense. I mean, he doesn't hit particularly hard apart from his AoE, but he's always assisting, so the more damage he does on his assists, it never really hurts. He doesn't really need speed because he assists all the time as well, and his anti-evasion damage is built into his unique, so it's passive, it's always there. And when you're modding Arc, you want to mod Arc for offense. Now, Arc hits really hard, but you don't want to be modding him for crit damage because it won't affect his turret. So, if you mod him for offense, you're getting more benefit because you're boosting the damage of the turret. If you mod him for crit damage, sure, Arc is going to hit a little bit harder himself, but the turret isn't really going to be affected by that. So, definitely max offense for Arc. A little bit of speed on Arc is also handy. He has no assist mechanics himself. And yeah, you kind of want him going. You kind of want him taking turns and attacking. So a little bit of secondary speed on Arc is always going to be helpful. In terms of gear, both these guys are going to work at gear 12. You don't have to gear 13 them. I'm not saying I would recommend it, but they will work. They'll, you know, the team will do its primary job with these guys at gear 12. In terms of what I would recommend, though, I would recommend when you go back to refine the team that you take them to Relic 5. Basically, as a general rule of thumb, all characters that are not a legendary, not a galactic legend, and there's a very, you know, sort of niche amount of exceptions, generally Relic 5 is the ballpark you want to shoot for when you're making a team the best it can be. But for now, just getting the team up and running. Both of them are going to work at gear 12. The fact of the matter is, if they're really frail, there's all the chance a straight AoE is going to take them down and trigger 5's sacrifice. There goes, you know, triggering the failsafe and giving them the stats of a gear 13 character. So, you know, getting 5's up there, getting his stats high is really beneficial because it means you can run these two at gear 12 and get away with it, basically. Get away with what they're designed to hard counter, basically. And that is what's under the hood of the gas team. That's what characters comprise its engine, and that's the characters that you kind of have no choice but to run with them to make the team work. Now, I listened to the feedback, and a few people suggested to me in both Moon's Discord and in the comments on the video itself to list off what the team does and does not counter. Now, I'm going to do it on this video, but I'm not sure if the length of this video is too long, and maybe this is better done in a part 2. So again, I will listen to your feedback. If you want this to be a separate video next time for the team I address, please let me know in the comments, or if you want it tacked on to the end of the team breakdown, also let me know. So we're going to go over what gas counters and does not counter. I'm also going to quickly do Jedi Knight Luke for those wondering. Basically, Jedi Knight Luke, he will counter everything that isn't a galactic legend, and he even counters Supreme Leader Kylo Ren half the time, so there's that. The only team you don't want to take him up against is Darth Revan. That's the only team that will give him any trouble. Now, for the gas team and all future teams I address, there's going to be 4 categories when we are discussing counters. That being the Stomp, Overkill, Even Stevens, and No-Goes. Stomp is the one team that the engine addressed is basically manufactured to hard counter. Overkill is not going to be me listing off every single team that this engine can beat. What I mean by Overkill is if you're in Grand Arena and you've broken through the character wall, you've still got this engine left and you can see all the characters on the board, and this is the most threatening team on the board. You can use this engine and it will pretty much net you a guaranteed win. It's hard to lose against these teams is basically what I'm saying, but they're still threatening teams. Even Stevens is assuming mods and gear are roughly equal. It can go either way, so this team can beat that team and that team can beat this team. And No-Goes kind of speaks for itself. Don't try it unless you're absolutely desperate and in a pinch, because it's probably not going to go down well. So, let's get to it. So in the Stomp category, we have Darth Revan. Gas's kit was actually tailor designed to beat Darth Revan, who was the meta at the time. Basically, the Gas's kit, it prevents deathmark. It's actually impossible to deathmark Gas until every one of his allies has been defeated, his 501st allies. And Arc and Gas are tailor-made to kill Malak. Both of their abilities, Arc's flat damage with the turret and Gas's health reduction and his double attack, are tailor-made to get rid of Malak. So Gas will pretty much stomp Darth Revan into the ground. Fives will sacrifice though, more often than not, because the Darth Revan team, it's not a pushover team, and you can get that mass fear on everyone and sort of push the clones back a little bit, and you can get Gas down, and you can get rid of fives, but more often than not, Gas is gonna win out on offense for definite. In the overkill category, we have Night Sisters. I mean, Gas prevents revives, so obviously he shuts Night Sisters down. In fact, you can go as far with Gas as to take in just Gas and one clone, just as a safety net, and Gas will probably solo the team by himself. You can also beat General Grievous. It's a little bit overkill, but again, Grievous is not a pushover team, so if he's the last team on the board that's a serious threat and you've got Gas, consider using Gas. The one thing I will say about the General Grievous team though is it's not a clean win. Gas fives will almost certainly sacrifice, and Gas will take a beating, but it's very hard to lose against the Grievous team, even though it's not a very clean win. Third overkill team is CLS without Chewpio, and that's important, the without Chewpio bit. CLS can beat Gas on offense without Chewpio if it's played right and the mods are in your favor, but generally Gas will beat this team. He can smash Traya into the ground, and he can also deal with Geos if Geos are the last troublesome team on the board. Anything else that I don't mention from now on is just toast beyond toast. They weren't even mentioning Gas stomps them that hard. Now, into the Even Stevens category, we have the mirror match, obviously. You're going to get that in every single video when we talk about counters. The Gas mirror match, though, is one of the fairest and the friendliest because it doesn't really rely on RNG, it more relies on how well you play. If you're smart and you take down their fives, you can generally win. Their AI will generally trigger fives' sacrifice, so it's quite a forgiving mirror match, if I do say so myself. Padme is another Even Stevens team. Gas can beat Padme, but Padme can also beat Gas. Padme is also kind of considered the soft, middling on hard counter to Gas, but Gas can easily beat Padme. It's just a matter of playing correctly. You just have to stall the battle out while Rex gets his Rexolate up. You Rexolate General Kenobi, and the team kind of falls apart from there, kind of crumbles. But yeah, Padme, definitely an Even Stevens team. CLS with Chewpio is an Even Stevens team. CLS with Chewpio will give Gas a lot of trouble and make this a very dicey battle. The extra assist from Chewpio and the extra expose which they're going to have from 3PO is going to help CLS take down Gas, seat him, and then it's very easy to get rid of fives because of all those attacks and all those exposes. So yeah, CLS with Chewpio is another Even Stevens team. It can go either way. And the last Even Stevens team on the list is Jedi Knight Luke. Jedi Knight Luke is probably the diciest Even Stevens team, and it generally comes down to Gas versus Jedi Knight Luke and RNG on whose abilities are off cooldown, how damaged Luke is, and whether or not Luke has his stun, because if he's got that stun, you could kiss the battle goodbye. But Gas can beat Jedi Knight Luke, and Jedi Knight Luke can beat Gas. I am talking about a standard Jedi Knight Luke team though, so please bear that in mind. I'm on about Jedi Knight Luke, Hermit, Shaq, and 2B Team Jedi. A most powerful version of Jedi Knight Luke team, an arena Jedi Knight Luke team that has Gas and it has General Kenobi and Jedi Knight Revan and stuff in, that will absolutely murder Gas, so do not take that in. I'm just talking about a standard Jedi Knight Luke team. And that's it for the Even Stevens. On to the no-goes. Basically, it's only the Galactic Legends in this category. Gas is still, I would say there is some contention now with CLS and Chewpio and Jedi Knight Luke, but Gas is still pretty much the pinnacle endgame non-Galactic Legend team. There's not really much that can beat it, so it's only really the Galactic Legends who fall into the category of don't even try it. Every now and then, Gas will beat Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. I mean, in the beginning, before they reworked Kylo, Gas could quite handily beat Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, but then they reworked him and made him the most overpowered character in the game, and that kind of shut that down. But yeah, generally speaking, don't take Gas in against any Galactic Legends. Raised damage immunity shuts down the burst offense from the Gas team. Jedi Knight Luke, he's just too tanky, and C as well, his mechanics will shut down Gas. So probably best not to try and use Gas against a Galactic Legend unless you're absolutely desperate. If you're in Arena and you're stuck behind a wall of Supreme Leader Kylo's, or, you're in Grand Arena and the intention isn't to win, it's more just to maybe try and do some damage, go for it, but apart from that, generally it's always going to be a loss. Every now and then you'll beat a Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, but that is it. Even a full Relic 7 gas team doesn't really do well against any of the Galactic Legends. So, that's it. That's what the gas engine will counter, and not counter. And that's it. That's the end of the video, guys. This one's been a bloody long one, and if you made it this far, all props to you, and thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to Moo's channel, show him some support. He really is on a roll now, and let's keep up that momentum. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you're also feeling kind and you want to thank, like me personally. I always appreciate it. Every single sub really helps my channel look a little bit better. Feel free to offer more feedback. I'm always listening. I do think maybe the counters is a separate video perhaps, but I'll let you guys decide on that. I'm always listening, so all your comments, I read them all, so please feel free to let me know any of your thoughts and feelings. The next engine will be CLS before we do another poll, because like I said, the vote was literally that close, so definitely doing that team next. And yeah, once again, thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe to Moo's channel, like and subscribe to my channel, blah de blah de blah. I'm really sorry about my whiny, nasally voice again. It's still really bad hay fever season here in Britain, and the antihistamines are not helping me one bit. But yeah, I honestly hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take it easy.